look at the feed. It looks like we are live. So welcome everyone today. Today we're going to talk about the body position blueprint for beginning and advanced riders. So this is for you if you want more of exactly how to get fluid, smooth control and balance on the bike. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I got my head instructor, Coach Kevin, with me right now, so you guys can hopefully see him. I think I fixed the text, or the tech. Yeah, it looks like it worked. So we're just going to use the good old-fashioned screen share, and I'm going to drink some shakes. Now, for those of you listening, we're going to talk about the most important part of body position and the blueprint first, which I'll let Kevin say what he wants to say. For those of you that don't know Kevin, Kevin is one of the few level 4 instructors. It's kind of like, sort of like having a doctorate in mountain bike instructing. And that is what his professional career is. He's also got an actual PhD in, I think, educational design. Is that right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you can trust him because he knows what he's talking about. And yeah, so we're just going to jam and hang out. And I'm going to check on the live feed as well. So if any of you guys have any questions or if you have any thoughts, make sure and pop them in the chat. And we'll do it. So let's see. I'm going to go to all messages visible. Very good. Cool. So what do you think, Kevin, first of all, what is the most important aspect of body position that we can kick off with, and why?
I love this topic, and this is a perfect progression from our last week's call where we talked about stability, because that ties into what I'm about to say here with how we position the body. Most beginner riders, or more towards the novice end of the spectrum on a like beginner to advanced rider scale, they're looking to feel stable. So what is stability? Stability is the ability to stay upright.
Yeah.
Right. And to do that, if we think about how we stand off the bike, we stand with our 2 feet, usually roughly shoulder width apart, usually fairly in line with each other. And we position our center of mass between those 2 pillars of support. And we do that for the most part with relatively stacked skeleton. If we bend down and we start using more joints, it requires more muscular support and it becomes fatiguing. And so we stand up tall again. So really, if we're looking to start this, like what's the most important part of this to kick off this conversation? It's how we position our center of mass over our feet so that we feel stable for most of us.
Yeah, and also pay attention to if you stand up and you notice you don't just use your toes and you don't just use your heels. We kind of use our foot in the front and the back of it to keep us stable forward and back. So this gives us stability in the forward back plane and the side to side plane. And I would say I kind of want to do beginner advanced next to each other as we go through each different section, just so that way the advanced riders don't have to wait till the end. But, for an advanced rider, I love the example of standing on flat ground. The thing that I see more often than not with an experienced rider who wants to increase their stability or their balance or anything like that, it's that they are using their strength to hold onto the bike rather than their footwork. Now, the thing is, if I'm standing on flat ground, I have the whole earth under me, and it ain't going to move, relatively speaking. And if I want that same kind of, gosh, I've got the whole world to stand on stability, you got to take a look at a bike. A bike, the pedals can rock forward and backward. The bike can tilt side to side if all we do is shift our weight. Now, if I do that on flat ground, I can shift forward, back, left and right on my feet, and nothing happens. As long as I stay inside of that platform I'm standing on with my feet, I don't go anywhere. So what you have to do is you have to actually expand that balance pocket. One of the things that I've found is the most helpful to do with footwork for an advanced rider is to preserve the stability in the pedals by keeping them from rocking forward and backward when the body wants to move. So how we do that is we hide the front heel under the pedal or the spindle of that pedal. If we can get the front heel under it, what that allows us to do is to create a force here and here, and it keeps the pedals from rocking forward and backward. So that's number one. You want to expand on that, or do you want to move on to the next one?
No, should we dive into like the more advanced side of the spectrum when we're talking about this same topic?
Yeah, go for it, man. Go more advanced.
Okay.
Go more advanced if you want to, and people can stack it. I love that.
Yeah. I love this very simple analogy that comes from the PMBIA, the Professional Mountain Bike Instructor Association. If you're standing on your 2 feet, roughly shoulder width apart, skeleton stacked, you feel pretty stable. If you start moving outside of that pocket Dave's talking about, we have to use more muscular structure to balance us. And we have to counterbalance and balance against additional forces. So if we're just standing there, it's just gravity, but on the trail, there's other forces moving the bike and our body around. And more advanced riders are better at standing. They're more stable inherently. And so they're allowed themselves to move their bodies around even more and still maintain a sense of stability. And you can check this right now. Dave, I just saw you kind of pop up on your toes. So if you're watching this, stand up out of your seat. You won't be able to see my footwork. I apologize, but stand up out of your seat. I'm standing here on my 2 feet. I feel pretty stable. Now, if I do this and I get up on one leg, I'm still fairly stable, but it requires a bit more attention. Now, if I get up on my toes, this is pretty demanding. So that's a good, that's a good example of like what is stability versus what is balancing. Balancing is using the movements and the muscles to maintain our sense of stability to the best of our ability. And more advanced riders are going to be more mobile on the bike and still maintain that sense of stability.
As well, that is, in order to practice that movement, if you're moving through intermediate to advanced, the best is all right. I don't know if anyone can still hear me on the live stream. If you can, just hang tight. Looks like my internet. We've had some outages nearby.
Spectrum of tall versus low. Ready? Hey, Dave.
What's up?
There might be times where we're shifting our mass around that pocket Dave was getting to. I don't know where you cut off for the live stream. I just figured I'd fill the space here, but
You're the man. Yeah, it's so I might circle back right behind what you just said, and we might say it again.
sure.
The single best thing I've found that I can do when I'm out discovering how to make more movement happen inside of what I call the balance pocket, what I need to do is I need to find out where the range of motion is and then play around inside of it. And one of the best ways for me to play with that is over like mounds of dirt, like a pump track. And you can do this on short, fast things like a curb or maybe a log or something like that. You can do it. But man, I really like going to the pump track and just pumping straight over things. And then the more I do it, the more I'm going to take the pathway of my body and I'm going to carve it around side to side. And I just think carving left and right up the berm like this with the bike and keeping the body relatively stable introduces, at least to me, okay, this is how I feel. So for you, if you're thinking, well, how do I do more movements and, carve harder on my turns? How do I throw bigger whips on the jumps? How do I have more style on the trail? And how can I just get loose and rowdy? Well, that's exactly how. You need to play around with the ends of the range of your motion, find out where they are, and get really good at putting your torso on a pathway and figuring out how the bike and the body relate. So a really good way to do that is just as you're pumping, instead of going straight, set up some cones on the apex of each one of, I don't have a video of this, but setting up cones on the apex of some rollers and just weave left and right in and out of the cones on a pump track. And then to expand that challenge, you can actually offset those cones and do like a slalom around them like this. And so you're going to need to take the bike and move it around and keep the body on a different pathway. So this is a topic I called syncopated shredding. It's essentially like in music, you've got different things that might not normally go together, but when you put them together, they create really cool music. In the same way, on the bike, we can go and make a move with the torso and a different move with the bike, which means our arms and our legs are maybe moving a little differently. And what we can do is we can create some really cool, fun moves that make you feel like you're a pro just because you were expressing something that was not perfect. That's where that's another philosophy we can talk about another time. But yeah, go ahead and jam on that with me, man. And I'll check.
I love this. The slalom on a pump track drill is pretty advanced. It requires a lot of maneuverability, mobility, adaptability, and all of that stems from a stable place. If you're not stable, this becomes even harder. And so thinking about like, all right, what are we actually doing? What is each component of the body doing to enable this kind of mobility? We talk a lot about footwork, and that builds our stability. So let's assume our riders right now have a pretty good wedge, pretty balanced with their center of mass. Up the chain of command from the feet, we've got the ankle, the knee, the hip, the torso, the shoulder, the arm. Like, what are we doing with the different parts of the body to create this maneuverability here? I saw you mime side to side. I'm even doing it with the arms. And the legs, they tend to go up and down more so, but they can wiggle side to side as well. Like, break that down for us.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to go to YouTube. I hope it's cool to stream another. I don't know if it's cool. I don't know if you can stream another YouTube channel on your YouTube.
We've got an inception occurring right now. You're on YouTube Live trying to stream YouTube.
I just don't have any video of me doing this because 90% of my video is like done over the course of like 2 weeks. I just had to batch it together. Yeah, I guess we could do. Let's give it a try.
Well, even without video, or while you pull it up, I'll kind of chat a bit. I typically think about if you're doing that one-footed flamingo balancing thing we just did here, you can feel all the metatarsals in the foot and all the ligaments connecting it doing a little bit of work. You can feel the ankle, which is kind of like a wrist, doing a little bit of rolling work. I'm signifying this huge range of motion here, but it's just doing a little stabilizing work like this. Going up the leg, this would be the shin coming to the knee. The knee, forward and backward, it allows the femur to go up and down, which is connected to the hips, which can do a squat, which is lowering the butt straight down while keeping the shoulders up, or a hinge, which is driving the butt backwards and allowing the shoulders to fold flatter, like a door hinge.
Yep.
So we've got these different joint patterns, and I typically think about the legs managing forces this way, like up and down for the most part. If we were to go up and down steps, jump, box jump, etc., the legs are vertical for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah,
and then you
mentioned.
Well, say, and then you've got the arms.
Yeah, you got the hinge, and what's really interesting about biking is that, like in a lot of sports, it's usually you're kind of doing one direction at a time. With biking, we actually do more combining directions. So in my view, I agree with you. I think that most of the time the legs, we go up and down with them. And then to go more advanced, we need to be able to articulate the hips left and right as we're in a hinge or as we're in a squat or as we're moving through those things. And even the lower part of the legs might move completely differently from the upper part of the legs at any given time. And so obviously mobility is important. You got to have good strength throughout your range of motion, which is mobility, strength throughout a range of motion. And yeah, let's take a look at someone who I like to watch, Brandon Semenuk. And I don't know, here, let me split this out real quick. I'll do two different windows.
Oh my gosh, what an example of lower body finesse, directional control with the knees, the hips, while still positioning the center of mass over the feet to maintain stability.
You got it, man. So we're going to share entire screen. This is going to be some inception. I'm doing like 5 different programs here. So I'm just going to keep it full screen. Can you guys see full screen?
I can on this side.
Okay. YouTube Live, if you're watching in, you guys should be able to see this.
Oh my gosh, go back just like a couple of frames and pause on that. That tabletop with the knee direction and the hips and the ankles and all of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't get to talk as much as I like to about like this is an absurd level of range of motion. Most people don't realize this, but he's almost never on his pedals in a tabletop. You guys see this? He's actually just playing with the bike. The frame with
So
his feet.
how does a beginner even begin to comprehend creating this amount of movement and mobility and control towards what a more advanced rider is doing? And then there's above and beyond like Brendan. But how do we get here?
I like to, I'm going to keep my screen sharing for, gosh, I can't do that. So what I'm going to do is just show you guys on YouTube. You can see my screen right here. You need to stand up straight and just roll onto your sides of your ankles like this. It doesn't feel like much, and you don't need crazy mobility, but just rock your body side to side and stand on the outside and the inside of each foot simultaneously. And practice shifting your weight like that. Now, when you're on your bike, you're going to be able to do this. When you float your feet like this, you're going to be able to push into the bike this way. And you can do this without ever leaving the ground. And guys, you can imagine, I think you can see me too.
All the riders who clip in right now are like Google searching what clipless pedals have the most float.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like you can play with this feeling for sure. And obviously this is a gross, like just disgusting amount of, dude, I can't even, yeah, it's amazing.
You know what that triggers for me though too is the directional control of the knees in corners. We tip a bike in a corner, and a more advanced rider not just tips the bike, but also rotates the hips and the knees and folds the knees a bit to allow the bike to tip even further. A tabletop is just a really dramatic corner, in essence.
Yes. And so let's talk about that, because here, obviously, you can see that the knees are completely folded. What you have to do in a corner is you have to rotate the hips in a different plane than the bike, so twisting the hips. What that does is it opens us up to movement, and when the movement is get closer to the body with the knees, all you're really doing is you're creating a folding force on the bike. And this is obviously hyper exaggerated, but that's how you do a tabletop. It's all below the knees, and you open up that movement, that range of motion, by twisting the hips. So if you could see the takeoff, you'd be able to see that the hips are twisted.
So for the more beginner riders, just focusing on more rotation of the hips and more rotation of the knees can be really beneficial in flat ground. For more advanced riders, usually tabletops are easier learned on a hip, and a hip is a jump where you take off from one plane and you land on a angled plane. And so in essence, you've created a redirection, you've created a corner, and that's exactly where that hip, the folding of the bike, the tipping of the bike underneath us, and the cornering from flat ground, they come together. It just happens to be in the air.
Yeah. So this is what I'm talking about right there. It's we need to twist the hips and fold the knees. And again, for advanced riders, doing something like this right here, the key here is notice the torso. There's going to be a little bit of a press right here. So Brandon is taking the force of gravity and directing it more or less straight down through the bike. And then he's going to counter steer to the right to move the bike out of the way under his hips while keeping the torso straight with the pathway that he's going on. Now, this rightward movement as he's going up, rider's right movement of the bike, when paired with bar movement to the left, prepares him to dip under with his torso the trajectory there, and he can land with the bike over to the rider's left, which just an insane amount of control there.
Now, what was neat about that too is that was a bit of a Euro table, meaning the handlebars were turned down versus turned up, and just different nuances. And we're talking about like how do we position body, how do we use our body to move? Yeah, it's just different influences on those handlebars to influence the bike's direction through the air there.
Yeah, and if you're a more intermediate advanced rider, a great way to practice this is get on your back with the bike up in the air and just fold the bike under you, because you have gravity to assist you and it's not going to fall away from you. So there's that Euro table, I guess is what you call it, to the other direction. Pretty cool. Dude, that's
the old school BMXer in me. I don't know if it's still called that, but
This is crazy. It's like we've been through 20 seconds of film and there's been 15 moves in it already. I can't keep up. Yeah, and for those of you that are like, oh, I shouldn't drop my outside foot. Yeah, you can do it if you're capable of this. It's pretty sweet. God, he got back on the bike that fast too. That's fun. Here's a tip that, like, when you think about this right here, this is actually just a good fundamental basic. It's standing on the pedals and pushing the body weight through the pedals without necessarily needing to brace on the bars right here.
Can we dig into this just a little bit more?
Sure. What are you seeing?
Because, well, since we're talking about both beginners and more advanced riders here, in my mind, beginners are really positionally biased. It's like, let me be neutral, let me be ready, let me have elbows out wide, and there's nothing wrong with that. It really can help create that stability sense that they're seeking.
Yes.
But more advanced riders, being more mobile, more maneuverable, we can improve our riding a lot more if we allow ourselves to get away from, I have to have my elbows out, I have to have my knees straight up and down, or whatever it is, and allow ourselves to consider the forces at play. In that corner there, the ground was supporting Brendan from the right, and he was pushing against it to traject himself to the left. The forces are not straight up and down, just gravity, and straight to the side, just the corner. There's a mix, and there's a net force that's occurring, and he is stacking his joints in alignment to oppose that net force and push him where he tends to go, which is so cool. And I bet all of us would naturally do this if you were going to do a push-up, since we're talking about the arms there, reliance on the hands and the bars. Like, if you're going to do a push-up on flat ground versus upright, like on a Basu ball, versus declined, like on a couple of steps, you would probably move your elbows and position your shoulders a bit differently to align against those forces more evenly, fairly naturally. If we can do that on the bike, as Brendan demonstrates here, it allows us to push so much more force and control so much more force.
Yeah. The thing that I
Can I
think
interject
is
here?
most important.
Please.
Yeah, just 1 second. I'll say this and then I'll switch the screen over so I can see it. But it's like so important to hear what Kevin's saying there, which is stacking the joints. So the very first thing we said today is we need to stand on flat ground and take that concept to the bike. Okay, well, how do we stay in the balance pocket? Well, we got to stack our joints into the bike. And so those of you watching on YouTube, these are some of my riders in the Athlete Accelerator. Say, hey guys, we're just live here on YouTube. Super fun. So what we need to do is we need to stack our joints over where the forces are going. And so in a sharp turn, I'm going to stack my joints as if everything is turned. That way I can push into things like this. And a lot of times what maybe beginner riders are doing, their knees nice and bent, and then they're staying straight. We end up reaching around.
Internet connectivity.
All right. Can anyone hear me now? Okay, let's see if we're back on.
That's a solid wedge. That's a hip and knee turn. Okay, cool. Now here's a good foot position and stacking the bones. And it's each one of them has so many fundamentals within. And like we've all talked about, I think that if we continue to work on the fundamentals and get all of these individual components put together in our minds, we can then apply them to each and every situation that we come across, that we run into.
Yeah. For me, this brings up this concept of control of our movements and control of our body through different positional dynamics. If we go back to, again, that flamingo example, standing on one leg is challenging enough for many of us, but not actually all that hard for many of us as well. Getting up on the toes, it's a bit more. Getting up on the toes on a little tiny round thing, like on a D battery or something, holy moly. And how simple of a extra challenge that is, but how much harder that would be. And so the more we can control even just the nuances of our movements and how our body stacks against forces, the more we can bring that to the bike at a subconscious level and apply it.
All good stuff. I am sorry I got cut off. So sorry I missed you guys' questions. I was gonna say let's go ahead and kind of tighten it up here. My internet's super bad, so we're gonna have to just drop some gold and get out so that it's not too much of me getting cut off and letting people down. So anyways, I would say like the most important thing we can do, whether you're beginner, intermediate, or advanced, is just learn how to move with the force of the bike and the force of gravity at the same time. Gravity's always on, and the force of me relating to the bike can always be a little different. So what we need to do is we need to, again, beginners, figure out how to get stability. Start with the feet, work your way up, work on stacking the joints, and then adding challenge, add changes to the trail, do your practice like that, and really work on feeling like you are standing on your feet primarily. Now, if you're a bit of a beginner working on things like downhill racing, or you're more of a gravity rider, some of those forces are going to be too big to always just use your feet. So you're going to sometimes want to brace with the arms too. But then those more intermediate advanced riders, if you are older than 35, find a way to get more range of motion on the bike. Get more comfortable with it. Explore it even though it might feel a bit, and again, like I said, the best way to do that if you're trying to do stylish things, get on your back, on the ground, put the bike in the air as if you're riding it, go like this, and just move the bike around as crazy as you can. I don't think I can table like Brandon Semenuk. I just don't. But when I'm on the ground on my back, I can do that thing where I get my feet off the pedals and I'm twisting the frame almost 180 degrees. So what that does is it gets us comfortable. And for those of you that are a bit younger, I know Oscaris is on the call, or he was checking in a second. If you're 18, 20, 22 years old and your body's primed and you're just on top, then get out there and try some stuff with buddies. Go to the foam pit, go to the bike park, go to a step up, build a jump that's like this, where you land up higher and you lose all that speed and you just can walk it off if you mess up. That's exactly how I did it when I was 20, 22 years old. It's just cool. Let's build a step up jump and try stuff. And again, like I said, if you're over 35, it just doesn't make any sense to do that unless you live in Whistler and you have a foam pit in your backyard, maybe. But I would say lean into increasing your range of motion once you get that stability first, and just increase as you go. Hopefully that this has all been helpful. But let's kick it over to Rick and Kamish. And what are you guys' thoughts, or what questions do you have, or is there any footage we can review and just do it? Let me know.
Well, so one of the things, I was talking to these guys while you were on your internet break there. Learning what we're learning now with the academy and studying some of this stuff, there are so many of these things that you can piece together. So many of the fundamentals, that particular move has these three fundamentals in place, and that particular one has two. That's okay. There's a good solid this, and once I feel like. As I've worked on some of these fundamentals and taken it to the trail a couple of times now, and now moved over to flats from clips, and starting to work on some of this stuff, it's amazing how each of these fundamentals does so much more. And then as the trail changes, okay, I don't need that one. I don't, you've got this chart in front of you. You can go, okay, I need that, and that, and then apply those to the feature.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool way to think about it, man. So you're kind of saying that it's cool to have a grab bag of skills that you can, pull out and use as you go. Very cool.
Right. So as the trail changes and as terrain changes, as your speed changes, you can pull from that, that grab bag as you call it there.
I love it.
And it really makes a difference. I've found so far.
Yeah. What would you say to someone who's maybe working through some of the things that you've been working through? How would you encourage somebody who's on a similar path to where you're at?
Well, first of all, I would say Mountain Bike Academy. Here's the contact information, and I would start there.
I'm not trying to get anyone to buy my stuff right now, but I appreciate that. I meant like directly, like if they were in the room with you, like what what are some things you're learning? I appreciate that, dude.
Really, I mean, for me and for a number of the guys that I ride with, foot position is so huge. I mean, when I was at Whistler and I paid for the coaching and the guiding up there, one of the first things that they pointed out to me, they're like, you ride with your toes down? It's like, no, I hadn't really paid attention to that. Now I can ride without focusing on my feet. It's hard to see the trail because I'm like, where are my feet? But that was one of the big things. And, at Whistler, everything is hard downhill. So it was both heels dropped for a lot of it based on their coaching. And now I see the benefit of the wedge and even some of the stuff that I was working on there, no matter how steep it was. But I mean, it's one that I see a lot with the guys that I ride with, and some are clipped in, some are not. But that foot position, and then a lot of the a lot of us like to get down in the bike, like you've talked about so many times. We get down and back. We push away from the danger, right? And we get down so we're comfortable on the bike, but we're pushing away from the danger, and that puts us in a terrible position to manage the forces and manage the movement of the bike underneath us. So I'd say really those two would be my first go-tos: is body position, make sure you're tall enough on the bike to allow the movement, and foot position, making sure you've got full control of the bike through your feet.
I love that, man. Yeah, it's good focus. I think that's good, honestly, for anyone who's even a beginner or an intermediate advanced rider. It's like, checking in and making sure that you're not letting those things break down. So, good stuff.
I would actually put Rick in the pretty advanced rider category. He's out there riding black trails. That's advanced by definition.
Yeah, exactly.
And just finessing little things. Like, imagine walking around on your tiptoes all day. How tired your ankles and calves would be, and how unstable you'd feel when somebody handed you like a gallon of milk you took over, right? But something as simple as that, just changing the foot position. And now we're taking a black rider and making the black trails feel perceptively less demanding, and it opens up the ability to progress the terrain or speed or whatever it is that we're trying to do.
Love it. That's brilliant, man.
Yeah.
Kamish, you got anything you want to say? We're not hearing you, man. Turn up your audio.
Can you hear?
Now we can.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, yeah. I was going to say, I mean, Coach Kevin is really good about the light hands and heavy feet. And for me, that's just really works, as I always check in on that. And so almost on anything, it's like that's the first thing I go to if I'm not as advanced as Rick, but just in terms of when I'm riding, and I'll notice that, and I'm like, oh yeah, I need to have more balance on the bike. I need to be more on my feet and less on my hands and stuff like that. I mean, that's definitely one thing, and I think something you always talk about, David, is like having a stable platform. Like, do I feel stable on anything that I'm doing? And they're really good check-ins on that. I do on any trail now. It's kind of ingrained that, and definitely the wedge. Still work, but yeah, those are the two things that I've really gone to. The other thing is sort of just in general is like it's a pain initially, but just videotaping yourself and then watching that. I mean, it's just eye-opening. Even if you don't have somebody to give you feedback. Yeah, it's you think you're low and you're not really low. You think you're leaning, you're not really leaning.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Give yourself grace, by the way, if you try to record your corners. You set your phone down. You're like, I'm leaning so far. My bar has got to be on the ground. You look at the video. You're still straight upright. Give yourself grace. But yeah, the video really highlights our awareness of the bridging the gap between what we think we're doing and what we're actually doing. And we can start mapping that.
Yeah, and like if you're brave enough to lean into figuring out what's really happening, what's cool about that is that it's not a bad thing if you're not moving or leaning as much as you think you are. It's great. That's just new information. Now we can understand what we actually did versus what it felt like. And Let's see if we can get it back. Okay. Apologies again. It is. All right. Can y'all hear me now? Hello, hello.
I've done that.
What's up, guys? I don't know. Y'all were saying something. It's not live streaming what you guys are saying when I cut off. So.
Oh man, bummer.
Yeah.
It was gold. It was pure gold.
I know. Anyways, I was just saying really briefly that the pro athletes, they actually do the thing that they're trying to do, even if they don't know what's going on. Those guys are inverted from everybody else. Anyone else, us mortal humans, myself included, the challenge is figuring out, okay, well, how can I do the thing I'm trying to do and actually do it? Because if you can crack the code on that, then, and really genuinely 80-90% of that is just, like Kamish was saying, just videotape yourself. See what you really look like. And then you'll know the truth. You'll go, okay, that felt like this, and here's what came out. Got it. That helps you so much. So again, you guys don't need to join my course to get that. You don't need to get some special thing. You just need to pull out your phone, turn it sideways, ideally, right in front of it, maybe stick it up on a rock, hit record, go right in front of the camera and watch it and see what really happened. I think it'll help you guys a lot. So let's go ahead and end on that. I've had way too many internet challenges today. Really thought it was fun. Thanks everyone for joining in. Thanks for putting up with me getting cut off left and right. And we'll just, I got the screen fixed this time. Everyone can see everything on the live on the YouTube, but the internet dropped off. So for those of you who have gotten something out of this, go tell a friend about the channel, help them subscribe. We're on a mission to solve the progression problem through restoring athleticism, technique, and confidence, and we're glad to have you be a part of it. We're doing these YouTube lives just to kind of keep it, down to earth. Plus, it's also a cool extra credit. Like anybody in my course can come hang out a little bit extra. So it's cool to build the community inside and outside of just the work we do with our athletes. And I really appreciate anyone listening in. You guys are important. Stay safe out there. Appreciate everyone. Thank you.